jihadi organization wrought against those innocent men, women, and children. Go back in time to the UK, to 7/7, look at the London Bridge attack, on and on and on. This is a them or us conflict between the West, the greatest civilization the world has ever seen, and global jihadism. And now that we are back in the White House, we are calling it what it is, global jihadism.
Have you had pushback from Muslim organisations in the US against this? Because I'm just trying to picture what would happen in the UK if the Muslim Brotherhood was prescribed a terrorist organisation. There would be so many loud voices that would say this is Islamophobic, as you said, this is racist, this is not politically excusable, would be the language. And that's not necessarily about the phrase you've used there about intestinal fortitude, which I love, by the way. I think it's about the fact that there has been a capture, perhaps, of powerful organisations which wield an awful lot of influence in the UK politically and electorally, perhaps. Have you seen any of that pushback here?
Well, look, to be brutally honest with you, I really haven't seen as much as I expected, having dealt with this issue of jihadism for nigh on a quarter of a century. But I think the bad guys have been reeling. They've been in shock since January the 20th, simply by the pace of what we are doing here in the White House. So whether it's, smiting drug boats, building the wall, deporting 1.7 million illegals, pardoning turkeys just a few hours ago, whether it's the tariff system, whether it's getting NATO to pay 5%, whether it's what we have done in the Counterterrorism Directorate, we have authorized, or the president has authorized, the killing of more than 412 leading jihadists around the world. And the president, likewise, through his special envoys, has liberated more than 76 Americans from their status as hostages. So we are moving at such a rate of knots that the bad guys, the NGOs that have captured so much of Western civilization here in this country, I'm sure they're going to start, and there'll be the court cases, there'll be the propaganda campaigns. But given the monumental tectonic enormity of what the president did yesterday in the Oval Office, no, the response has been pretty pathetic, which means the good guys are on a roll. And just wait till Stephen Miller, the Homeland Security Advisor, starts dealing with the domestic aspects of this. So yesterday was the foreign terrorist organization designation, but it's just the beginning of what we are doing.
What will it mean in the practical tools that may now be at the disposal to deal with the threat of jihadism, which weren't there prior to this change?
Yeah, great question. So the FTO statute, the law that allows the president to designate entities as foreign terrorist organizations, once that determination occurs, a whole panoply, a veritable smorgasbord of options is thrown open in terms of sanctions that can be used, tools that the Treasury Department, the great Scott Bessent, the intelligence community, the FBI can use. If you are found, for example, once that entity has been designated as an FTO, a foreign terrorist organization, if you're an American, or if you're an American NGO or a company that is found to give a red cent to this entity, if you give aid and succor to these individuals, you are committing a federal offense, which is called material support to terrorism, and you can go to prison. So it's this whole slew of options that opens as soon as that entity has been designated. And let me guarantee to you that whether it's the Treasury, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the Justice Department, we will be utilizing every single one of those options until these entities are combat ineffective, fold, or every single one of the people that is helping the terrorists is in prison.
That was the Senior Director for Counterterrorism for President Trump here, Sebastian Gorka, of course. And I also talked to him about Russia and Ukraine, and I also talked to him about the Turkey pardon. So if you stay tuned, you'll see what he's got to say on those topics as well. But let's talk to journalist and commentator Khadija Khan, who is in the UK. And Khadija, were you impressed by Seb Gorka's position there in terms of his absolute belief that the Muslim Brotherhood needs to be prescribed as a terrorist group now, so that they can be contained and controlled? And should we do the same, do you think, in the UK?
Thank you so much for having me to discuss this important issue. I mean, people, they don't think that prescribing Muslim Brotherhood is an issue at all here in the UK. And it surprises me a lot. Members of the Muslim Brotherhood reflect a wide range of interpretations of al-Banna's original ideology, with many adopting a more pragmatic approach that emphasizing political participation and collaboration. That is, I would say, quite absurd and pernicious approach to infiltrate in Western politics. And pertinently, this has been widely reported that some organization affiliated with the network have a component of violence. And I would like to mention Hamas, which is quite violent, and we shouldn't be in any doubt about that. This troubling ideology has influenced both groups and individuals in the UK. And when the former Prime Minister David Cameron chose not to designate Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization in 2015, following a commissioned review of their activities, I believe it was a missed opportunity. The main findings of the review concluded that membership in association with or influence from the Muslim Brotherhood should be considered a possible indicator of extremism. And let's not forget that the Muslim Brotherhood's foundational texts characterize the West as decadent and immoral. I question what measures were taken to combat the influence of this organization and its wild ideology on British social and political discourse. The decision not to ban.
I was just going to say, because in the UK it's slightly different, isn't it? Because the Muslim Brotherhood in the UK ostensibly does not exist as an entity in the same way that it does in America, but it kind of probably influences through more sort of shadowy networks and via universities and other NGOs perhaps, and other influential means, even just within the community, within mosques. Do you think that's been a deliberate decision, Khadija? Because these people who may wish ill on the UK are much harder to detect and therefore to silence if they operate in the shadows.
It is a reality, and it's a sad reality, that we can see the influence of the ideology that is propagated by the Muslim Brotherhood in shadowy realm here in the UK. But it is hard to just challenge it or question it because we fear a backlash from certain section of the Muslim communities. I think people who oppose the ban on Muslim Brotherhood, they underestimated the significance of the highly pernicious influence of Islamist ideology that stems from highly politicized version of Islam. This ideology and the activities of Muslim Brotherhood, they contradict British values such as democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, equality, and mutual respect and tolerance for different faiths and beliefs. I think it's about time for the UK to take a firm stance and designate this organization as a terrorist organization. And if it is very difficult, since we have a high threshold of democracy and free speech, and we cannot ban it, at least we have to take some measures to combat the influence, the growing influence, I would say, of this wild ideology in certain section of our society, such as Germany has taken certain approach to tackle this threat. People who share the ideology of Muslim Brotherhood, they cannot hold any significant office in politics or in official machinery. They cannot operate within certain section of the political sphere where it is related to the national security.
Okay, thank you, Khadija. I really appreciate your input. It's fascinating. Khadija Khan there. Of course, the Muslim Brotherhood would say there is no evidence that they are a terrorist organisation. They would probably say this is unfair on the part of the American government. And they would also say there's no evidence of them influencing jihadist movements in the UK as well. Should we ask my guests? I'm delighted to say that Mally Smith is with me this evening, Democrat strategist, and instead of Stephen Kent, we have Katie Balls here from The Times. Katie, good to see you. What do you think then, as a Brit? Because it's such a stark comparison how the US is treating the threat of Muslim extremism in this country compared to the UK. Are we just too polite and naive?
I think the US is definitely far more strident when you look at the Trump administration and it comes to talking about the Islamists. I also think that when you look at the executive order and the plan, first off, we still have time for Rubio and others to come back and find their findings before things necessarily come into effect. And they're talking about specific Muslim Brotherhood in Lebanon, in Egypt, and other places, and what they're doing there. So I think that this is inevitably going to stir up a conversation of what should the UK do about the Muslim Brotherhood? But America is looking at parts of the Middle East and beyond when it comes to
and it's already prescribed as a terrorist group within a lot of Middle Eastern countries by the governments there as well. Mally, when you hear Sebastian Gorka there talking in such strident terms about this threat, does it make you feel safer as an American?
I don't know if I would say it makes me feel safer. I was interested, though, because as she was saying, the fact that, the way he's talking about it, he's saying, like, we are designating them a terrorist organization. But the actual text of the executive order is we're going to look at the different branches and see if they should be designated a terrorist organization. And I think that's going to lead to a few interesting things. I think you could see regional differences. I think you could see some Muslim Brotherhood chapters get deemed terrorist organizations. And I also think you could see him, President Trump, using this as potential negotiating leverage with those countries, saying, if you do X, Y, or Z reforms, maybe I won't do this designation, but if you don't, you're going to be hit with tariffs or, other sanctions.
As though it's somehow, this is part of a step one in terms of Donald Trump's negotiation techniques across the world. Oh, clever. Stay with me, Katie and Mally. We're going to go to a break. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. There's a brand new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Have a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
You've been getting in touch at home. Andrew said, my goodness, Seb Gorka has a backbone made of iron. Can you imagine someone like that existing in Britain? Not a chance. The pearl clutchers would go into meltdown. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
You are hereby unconditionally pardoned.
The strangest sights you will see in the Rose Garden at the White House today. Donald Trump officially pardoning 2 turkeys. I was there and I'll show you the hilarious moments from that ceremony. Also tonight.
There's a very large political element to this, but I absolutely deny the charges that are made by this one individual.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage is being forced to deny racism allegations made against him when he was at school. He joined GB News earlier tonight. We'll bring you his full statement next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So Nigel Farage has come under increasing pressure after claims that he made racist remarks as a teenager when he was at school. Tonight he insisted he categorically did not racially abuse fellow pupils during his time at Dulwich College. But yesterday, a former classmate claimed the Reform leader had repeatedly told him Hitler was right and gassed them. Well, Nigel Farage spoke to Martin Daubney exclusively on GB News earlier today.
There's a very large political element to this. And as you well know, even to question immigration numbers is, in the book of some people, a racist statement. And I think it was the same back in the 1970s too. But I absolutely deny the charges that are made by this one individual. In a long career in public life that lasts over 30 years, I've done more in this country to defeat the BNP, to defeat the far right.
So let's talk to my panel, Democrat strategist Mally Smith and Washington editor at The Times, Katie Bowles. Mally, let me come to you first as our American here. Is it ridiculous when people get accused of saying mean things at school?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're not close to school age. I think, most folks are forgiving of what you might have done in high school and middle school, because we can all think back to times in high school and middle school when we were probably a prick, right, or did something embarrassing. I think those are serious allegations, especially the anti-Semitism, but I would give folks the benefit of the doubt if he says, I didn't say this. You know, it's a little he said, right? And how do you adjudicate that when it's 50 years ago? So I think, at least in America, I assume in the UK, there's going to be some grace given on this. We can't really adjudicate this, and it was so long ago. But, you know, we'll see how he continues to respond to these claims.
How do you think he's managed it, Katie? Because yesterday he made this statement about if I'd said anything, there would have been no ill intent or something, which I felt was not quite as unequivocal as he could have handled it.
Yeah, I think it appears a little bit confused, because on the one hand you have saying no, you know, malicious intention, and then of course you then have most recently the denial, which appears to be about a specific claim, and that suggests that there, you know, could be some truth to it, then fuels it further. I mean, I think anyone would probably be horrified at the idea journalists were like sniffing around what they said when they were in their, you know, 11 to teens. It is going so far back in time. Can everyone remember it correctly?
I wonder that's why his reaction was a bit confused. Because I think if somebody said to me, we've dug out people who you knew when you were 10 and they said you said some racist things, and my response would be confused.
And also, he is now such a polarising figure in the UK because, of course, the real backdrop to this is the fact that if you look at any opinion poll, Nigel Farage looks like he is the next inhabitant of 10 Downing Street, which means there's a lot of people who want to stop that, and some of those will be his classmates. Now, maybe they do have the correct memory. Maybe Farage slightly knows that, but I think it's a tricky story for him to get across, of course. Of course, I suppose one thing is, back then, we're not on the day of camera phones and everyone recording things. I think that if you think to, you know, a few decades ahead, if it was someone that, you know, at that point, going back to being like in their teens now, there would be video proof of what they said, probably.
Like if someone finds his jotter with a picture of Hitler in it, with a heart around it or something, maybe he's banged to rights, but it's ludicrous, isn't it?
Well, and I think that one thing that's really compelling about this story, and that's going to capture the media's attention, is the anti-Semitism part, because we have this now debate that's happening on the right, left in the US, and also in the right and left in the UK, which is both sides can point to anti-Semitism in their coalitions. There's anti-Semitism in the far left, there's anti-Semitism on the far right. So there's this larger political game of like, let's find the anti-Semitic thing that someone might have said, because we're trying to tar the other party as anti-Semitic.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nigel said there, Katie, you know, this is politically motivated. They, in inverted commas, who is they? Well, it's the other political parties who've enjoyed the uniparty status for so long. It's Labour, it's the Conservatives, the Greens will also be lining up, and the Lib Dems have got Nigel Farage and the Reform Party in their sights as well. They will be going for anything between now and the election. And part of me thinks, why now? I think this is the Guardian piece, isn't it? It's the Guardian research. Why now are the Guardian going after what he might have said as a teenager?
Well, I think it's probably a taste of things to come, and actually Nigel Farage and his team need to prepare for a lot more of this, because as you say, he is now the one to beat. We don't know when there's going to be an election. If you think about the unhappiness towards Keir Starmer from his own party, the concerns about the budget, which happens this week, it could at any point you have a situation where the leader changes, and then you're in uncertain territory. So the closer the election gets, the more attacks Nigel Farage is going to get.
And of course in May we've got big local elections as well, elections in Scotland and in Wales, and that will be a real test for the Reform Party. When you watch this, Mally, do you think how ridiculous the British media is? Like, would this happen in the US?
Well, the US media is pretty ridiculous
this is
too.
True.
So I think that's a, you know,
But even like when it was the election, I'm thinking if somebody came out and said we found evidence that Biden was mean to people in the playground, like would it have played out? How would it have played out to the Americans?
Well, I think you have elements.
There's a bigger age gap, admittedly.
Yeah, that would take.
That was about 90 years ago.
Those people are still alive. But I think it's tough because I feel like in 2019, 2020, there was a lot of let's dig in people's background to see what terrible things they might have said, whether it was on Twitter or potentially said when they were at school, and we don't have as much documentation. And I think there was a bit of a pullback from that in America because people got tired of it, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there are things that still are politically toxic. So when it crosses the line from bullying to saying positive things about Hitler, it's going to be a harder thing to get away from. So I do think Nigel Farage needs to prepare for tough questions on this and other topics and have a better answer.
Yeah. Did you know, if somebody said to me, do you feel exactly the same way about something as you did when you were a teenager? That's not really an indication of being a good person. I'm not saying he should say, yes, I used to be racist and now I'm not. That's not my comparison. But we all feel differently about things that we did when we were at school. Blimey heck.
We're all dumb teenagers.
Crazy, isn't it? Right, coming up, still to come on The Late Show Live, how alarming is the rise of crime in the UK? Well, Bridgerton actress Genevieve Chenior is going to join me next after yet another encounter in central London. We're looking at the CCTV footage of the first time she had a phone nicked. Well, she's also been a victim again on the streets of London. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, how serious has crime in London become? You may recall the incident involving actress Genevieve Chenior, known for her role in Bridgerton. Her phone was stolen in central London. You can see her there. She actually basically went after the phone to get it back. Well, she sat down with Nigel Farage exclusively on GB News earlier this year and talked about that incident. Here we go.
Zacharias, the
guy that is in prison, he didn't threaten me with stabbing me. He was the one that took my phone, and luckily I had company, so we both managed to get him to the floor. But then the guy, you can see at the end of the video, comes over to me, and I thought he was going to help me. I thought he was going to call the police.
Yes.
And actually he was working with him, and he then proceeded to get involved. It became physical between all four of us. It went on for about 5 minutes. I ended up on Zacharias' back with my arm around his throat while someone else held him down. But then I was threatened with being stabbed twice, and I had to kick him in the chest.
Experienced another encounter after being attacked in the street.
Guys, literally 5 minutes before my audition, I was walking around the corner in Oxford Circus, and this guy just looks at me and like targets me and hits me, and like I'm like against the wall.
Well, the actress joins me now, Genevieve Shunner. Thank you so much for joining me. I saw your clip on Instagram when you were moved, and as the mother of two teenage girls who regularly walk through the streets of London, I was so horrified and also just so grateful that you had done that very honest reaction there to what had happened. So just tell us, what did happen, Genevieve? Presumably you were probably just about getting back on the streets and feeling okay, were you?
Yeah, so the first incident happened around February, and I decided to leave London because I just didn't feel comfortable walking around, and I was extremely traumatized by what had happened. And this was actually probably one of the first times that I was walking around Central without being overly concerned, though I had taken every precaution possible, and it still happened. So it just... Yeah, it's just enough is enough. I've just had enough of this, and I really want to use my voice to try and change things, because what happened to me isn't an isolated incident. I think a lot of women have experienced this.
They do, and that's why it's so brilliant that you're talking out about it. We saw Kirsty Gallagher, the TV presenter, as well, talk about something really similar happen to her, probably in, I think, the same sort of area just recently. So you were on your way to an audition, and what happened?
Well, I was just walking, minding my own business. I actually was covered. I was wearing a very long, dark coat. I had a handbag, but it was covered by an M&S bag. I didn't have any jewellery on show, nothing. And I was walking, and there was a wall to one side, and then another person, two people to my other side. And as I was passing them, and I was in it between these two things, so I couldn't move either way, there was a man, and he looked at me, and the moment he looked at me, I thought something was really off. And then hands were in pockets, and he was walking to me very aggressively. I tried to move out of the way, I just couldn't move out of the way, and then he just walked into me with full force, bracing his arms and hitting me. And I was by a wall, and I turned around and I screamed at him something that I'm not going to say now, and I looked for witnesses, and he just kept walking at pace. And so I was left there totally shocked, because there was no validation that had happened to me, and it was just so shocking. And yeah, I just couldn't believe that it happened, and I was so shaken by the whole experience.
And did you call the police?
No, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened to me, and my experience of the police last time is that they arrested Zacharias, but the man that threatened to stab me multiple times, they won't give me the name of. And I really don't have much trust in them. And I, to be honest, just wanted to get myself out of the area. I wanted to focus on my audition. I wanted to regulate myself. And I just didn't feel like there was anything that they could do. The chances of arresting him and being believed, and also I don't even think I believed myself that it happened. I was so shaken by it. I've had a lot of backlash though for not reporting it.
For not calling. But do you know what's really heartbreaking, Genevieve, is hearing you describe it, and you're talking about the fact that you've got your handbag covered up by a shopping bag, and you haven't got jewellery on display, and you're wearing clothes which are covering you up. Women have it's sort of metastasized, this idea that we have to be careful all the time, and we are now just absorbing, implicitly, just subconsciously behaving in a way that is putting an armor around ourselves all the time because we're on alert, and that is outrageous. Have you always felt like that in London, or has it been something that you've gradually had to acclimatise to?
Well, I think after the first incident, obviously, I became hyper aware of how men can behave in London. But since sharing my story in February, I've had hundreds of women come forward and tell me their stories. It was actually so overwhelming, the amount of people that reached out to me and said, thank you for sharing your story, thank you for talking about it, because this had happened to me and that had happened to me. And I think also because I became aware of it, I don't know whether I started to see it, whether it was rising, but what I do know is that the amount of incidents happening are not the amount of incidents being reported and documented, because the system doesn't support women. So I didn't report it. So many other women haven't reported it. And then when you do report it, it doesn't necessarily get documented anywhere.
If it happened again, heaven forbid, would you report it the next time? Would you ring 999, do you think, on that occasion?
In all honesty, probably not. I think the chances of them probably getting him or getting justice for that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I think what I want to do moving forward is talk about this, and I want there to be change, because I think talking about it is going to do more than them just looking for him and then saying they've looked for him, nothing happening, and just being silent about the whole thing.
One of the controversial issues, Genevieve, here in America is that in certain states, President Trump has put the National Guard on the streets. They have it here in Washington, D.C., and these are kind of volunteer soldiers, if you like. You can see some pictures here, so that's me there with them, and that's Ben Leo, our other host, and you just have groups of them. They're in groups of sort of 3, 4, 5 sometimes on the street corners. We were coming back from a football match, I've been here too long, that evening, and you feel safe because they are a very clear presence on the street. Do you think we should have something similar in London?
Yeah, I mean, if there were repercussions and men thought that they were going to be caught and that there were going to be witnesses and that they were going to be held accountable, that would decrease the rate of these kind of attacks happening, because you're going to weigh up whether it's worth it, aren't you, as a
of course
person, and also as a woman. It just would make me feel a lot safer to have more police on the streets. But then that conversation about police on the street, I mean, apparently, I'm not well enough educated on the situation with the mayor and the policing situation to comment, to be honest. But, there's not enough. You have very good anecdotal evidence. I don't think you need to be an expert on the numbers to know you either feel safe when you walk down the streets in London or you don't. And in your case, you clearly don't. And you said you'd only just moved or back to London or were spending more time in London. Are you now still in London? Would you even consider moving overseas at some point? I can recommend America. It's very nice here. So I've thought about moving to Spain. However, I'm at a point in my career where I really have to be in London for my auditions and for my events and things like that. So my whole life has changed since February. I don't have an apartment in London anymore. I am going back and forth from another part of the UK, and then I spend about 2 or 3 nights in London, but I'm always changing my routes. The fact that I can't get the name of the guy that threatened to stab me in the face multiple times means I can't, I don't feel like I can fully protect myself. So I'm really hesitant to settle somewhere right now. And there's been no support.
Can I just ask you, so with that first incident, was he charged?
The man that threatened to stab me, he just walked free, I believe. They wouldn't give me any information.
Wow. So it went to court as far as you know?
Pardon?
It went to court as far as you know?
Zacharias went to court, but I believe the other guy may have attended but wasn't charged. I wasn't given really much information about the whole thing. It's been quite disappointing.
That is very disappointing to hear. Thank you so much, Genevieve Chenot there, the actress from Bridgerton, and we really appreciate you joining us on The Late Show Live. Let me know what you think, gbnews.com/your say. I'll be talking to my panel about that as well in just a minute. But now, the countdown, of course, is on. Rachel Reeves is preparing to unveil her budget. I imagine she's tucked up in bed now, watching The Late Show Live. You should be in bed, Ms. Reeves. You've got a big day tomorrow. We'll give you all the details next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Right, all of tomorrow's front pages are covering Rachel Reeves' budget tomorrow. And to break it down, I'm joined by Mike Salem, who's a UK Policy Associate for the Consumer Choice Centre. Mike, do you think, broadly, your area of expertise, are consumers going to be better off after this budget?
Good evening, Bev. Thank you for the kind invitation to your lovely show. I think consumers sadly will be worse off because Rachel Reeves' initiative is revenue raising rather than limiting inefficient government spending. So we will feel the burden of several taxation revenue raising methods via milkshake tax, property taxes, freezing income thresholds. So we will feel the pinch in every shape or form, I think. I don't want to speculate on the actual contents, but I think it's going to be pretty pretty difficult, and I've been speaking with people on the street earlier today, and they're all preparing their boxes of tissues. So I feel prepared for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah. And when you're talking to people through the prism of being a policy associate for consumer choice, what areas are they expressing their concern about when it comes to buying the necessities of life?
Well, I think fundamentally the government tries and pushes us to buy certain products because it fits a certain narrative. Take, for example, net zero. The government tries to push us to buy green alternatives because they have a hard commitment to net zero by 2050. They try and reduce obesity by pushing us away from sugary drinks or sugar levies and other measures. And sadly, that actually limits efficiencies and, you know, placing constraints on exchanges between us and the markets lead to very negative outcomes. And people are a bit angry about not being able to, you know, spend their money the way they choose. Many people work very hard to earn their income, especially in these testing times. And we don't want an increase in cost of living via taxation, but we need relief measures and allowing people to exchange goods and products freely.
The Chancellor was interviewed at the weekend, and she said that she's making decisions which will be good for the long term, and she hopes that eventually people will look back and say, thank goodness for Rachel Reeves and the decisions that she made, because she managed to stop inflation getting worse, and she built the foundations and she plugged the black holes. But don't we have just way too much debt? With the amount we're even paying on debt interest every month is unbelievable. So does she have any hope of fixing the roof now, in a way, while it's not raining?
This is a very good point, Bev. I think 7% of our spending goes towards debt repayment, and this is a big number. She's in a very difficult position. I don't envy her position. I do not want to be in her position, and I can understand where she's coming from, but the key driver here is to actually reduce government spending and reduce inefficiencies, and she's struggling to find that because of political pressures. She tried to stop the winter fuel allowance payment or make it mean tested at least, and she faced a huge backlash by her backbenchers. So it's really hard to find the political will to reduce government spending, sadly. As such, she needs to resort to revenue-raising initiatives, and this will go down not very well with the public. So I sympathize with her. If she wants to take difficult decisions in the long run, she has a very big majority. She ought to cut spending as soon as she can now, so we are better off in the long run. But I appreciate where she's coming from, but she actually needs to take the tough decisions and not say she is going to do it.
She does. Thank you, Mike. Mike Salem there from the Consumer Choice Centre. See you in a minute.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Cold and frosty for many of us out there this morning, but in the west things are turning milder, but also quite a bit wetter already. We've got rain edging into Northern Ireland, a soggy morning here, that rain spreading into western Scotland, trickling into western parts of England and Wales, clouding over elsewhere, some sparkling frosty sunshine across eastern England, slowly clouding over through the day, but generally a fine day for East Anglia and the south east. Still pretty cold here, temperatures 7-8 at best. That'll be quite late in the day. Further west it is turning milder, but obviously won't feel all that pleasant with the rain. The rain should be easing from Northern Ireland though as we head into the afternoon and through the evening rush hour. Elsewhere, though, not especially heavy, but damp and drizzly for many over the Midlands and southwest England to end the day. But we also do end the day quite a bit warmer. Eventually, some of that rain through this evening will trickle towards East Anglia and the southeast. As I said, easing off, at least for a time, across Northern Ireland. Same goes for Scotland as well, the main area of rain heading away, so eastern parts of Scotland may well be drier for this evening rush hour. Just a few showers further west. We'll see more of those coming in during this evening. Some heavy ones are possible across the Highlands and the Western Isles during the night, and then another pulse of heavy showery rain could get into Northern Ireland through the night too. There's that rain moving into East Anglia and the southeast for a time, but again, tending to get out of the way by dawn. And look at the numbers. Compared compared to this morning. Many of us 8, 9, even 10 degrees higher to start Thursday compared to how we're starting this morning. So it's going to be milder tomorrow, but it's not going to be sunny, far from it. A lot of cloud, generally dry over eastern England, but showery rain in the west. Some of it could be heavy at times, particularly for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Northern Ireland may brighten up a touch later on tomorrow, but generally a lot of cloud. Quite brisk winds as well, getting very windy in the northwest later tomorrow, but it will also be much milder.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On the Late Show Live tonight, we're going to be talking to a farmer who is going to be protesting in London tomorrow, but the farmers have been told, stay at home. On the Late Show Live tonight.
And let me guarantee to you that whether it's the Treasury, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the Justice Department, we will be utilizing every single one of those options until these entities are combat ineffective, fold, or every single one of the people that is helping the terrorists is in prison.
Fox shows that you really do love him. I spoke earlier this afternoon to America's Senior Director for Counterterrorism, Seb Gorka, on the designation of an Islamist group as terrorist, but I also got the latest news from him on the Ukraine negotiations.
When you go to bed tonight, please say a prayer that this meat grinder that is the war in Ukraine will end imminently.
In the UK, back there in the UK, Nigel Farage is forced to deny that he was a racist at school. Is that fair or ridiculous? We're going to be looking at tomorrow's front pages, hours before the ink is dry, and breaking the news before it becomes news. We're live in Washington, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this. Some breaking news. Donald Trump has just said we are making progress. Ukraine is happy. Europe will largely be involved in security guarantees, and he added that there is no deadline for reaching a deal. More on that developing story as we get it.
The mayor is incompetent, and the governor is a big fat slob.
Once he wasn't talking about London. Donald Trump was on top form today at the quirky annual White House event of pardoning turkeys. GB News was there, I was there, and we'll show you the hilarious moments from the ceremony. I'm Bev Turner, this is The Late Show Live. Welcome to the second hour. We've got all the stories you're going to be talking about later today. More debates, zero ad breaks. Stay with me. Your messages are coming in thick and fast this evening. I've just got to read you this one. This is from Gordon about Nigel Farage. He says, the lefties are such hypocrites. The same people who say that Shamima Begum wasn't responsible for her actions because she was only a child at 15 when she joined ISIS are the same people who want to crucify Nigel Farage for hurty words that he may or may not have said aged 13. Keep your messages coming in. Now, though, back to my interview with Donald Trump's Deputy Assistant Seb Gorka. I asked him for the latest developments on the Ukraine war peace plan, which is developing as we speak. And earlier today, his boss said he's close to a deal. I also asked him about the American war on drugs as its military blows at traffickers from South America in the Caribbean Sea trying to enter America. Enjoy. Let me get a comment from you, Sebastian Gorka, if you don't mind, about the situation in Ukraine with Russia. Obviously, negotiations are ongoing. We're hearing this is the closest we have been to peace in that area, clearly in the last 3.5 years. What's your sense about whether there will be a resolution anytime soon?
Well, I think you were with me in the Rose Garden not too long ago, earlier today. The president mentioned it during the Thanksgiving pardoning ceremony. He said he thought this would be the easiest of all the peace settlements he had to bring to fruition. It has not turned out to be the easiest. He's put 8 on the table already. Absolutely stunning for less than a year in office. So 8 wars brought to a standstill thanks to the president. However, you heard his words today. It looks like we are on the cusp, closer than we've ever been. Just the open source reporting today of Kiev's reaction to the latest 28-point proposal looks very, very positive. So when you go to bed tonight, please say a prayer that this meat grinder that is the war in Ukraine will end imminently, thanks to the good offices of President Trump and his incredible team, including Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Marco Rubio.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I feel frustrated whenever I hear people calling for no compromise on the part of Ukraine, often from a nice warm television studio, where my feeling I want to always say to them, well, send your children out there. If you want to carry on, well, how about you send your children out there to die? And it does seem that the American administration, and yourself included on this topic, are just keen to save lives, not to ramp up the potential towards World War III. That's the driving force.
Yeah, it's truly disappointing. As you say, a lot of very muscular rhetoric, even rabble-rousing, incendiary rhetoric at times from some of our European colleagues, and you have to ask yourself, at what cost, and what are you going to do to back it up? It's easy to throw peanuts from the gallery, but here we're talking about the lives of young men. The president always brings up the thousands and thousands of young men whose lives are lost every single day in that war, in the trenches. It's easy, it's cheap, it's something that kind of belittles the president's objective, which you have so rightly identified. His number one objective is to stop the bloodshed. Just stop it right now. And for those who have no responsibility, no skin in the game, who in some cases are buying Russian gas and Russian petroleum products, the level of hubris or double standards is a tad galling, to say the least.
We're reading that there may be American troops that don't get to spend Christmas at home this year because of the situation in Venezuela. Now, this isn't necessarily on the front pages in the British news. It's not leading the headlines, but there's clearly a very tense situation in Venezuela. Can you just explain to us, Seb, what's happening there and why American troops might be deployed?
It's very easy to explain, especially for those who have a soupçon, a little amateur historian in them. Just look up the phrase "the Monroe Doctrine." This is not a neoconservative interventionist regime. We don't invade other people's country and say we're going to turn you into a quote-unquote democracy at the end of a gun barrel. That's the lunacy of the neocons of the Bush era. But when we see a threat to our interests, we will act decisively, as you saw with Operation Midnight Hammer and those stealth bombers in Iran, as you saw in the first Trump administration when we took out the greatest living propagator of terrorism, General Soleimani of the Iranian regime. So what we're talking about here is a very simple principle. We have interests in our hemisphere, or more prosaically put, what happens in our backyard is not irrelevant to the American people. So when you have an authoritarian regime that is really a narco-terrorist regime that is in bed with the cartels, as we know Venezuela is, which is working hand in glove with truly inimical regimes that are a threat to Western civilization, such as Iran, we're not just going to sit there and whistle past the graveyard. We will take action if there is an extant threat. So I won't say more than that, but for those who want to understand what the president is doing, he is following the Monroe Doctrine. What happens in your neighborhood is important to the safety of your home and your family. It is really quite that simple.
Seb Gorka talking to me earlier this afternoon. Now, just an update on Donald Trump's Ukraine negotiations. He has said this evening, we are making progress. Ukraine is happy. Europe will largely be involved in security guarantees, and he added that there is no deadline for reaching a deal. Let's bring in my panel, Democrat strategist Mally Smith and Washington editor at The Times, Katie Balls. Should we talk about what Seb Gorka was just saying then, Mally, about the situation in Russia and Ukraine? It is miserable what's been happening out there, and the point I was making to Seb there is there are so many people, and they do seem to be Democrats, they do seem to be politically on the left, who just seem quite happy that this war just carries on in order to make a statement to Putin while people die.
Well, I do think there is a lot of Russian hawks now in the Democratic Party, and I think they would love an end to the war. I think the worry is that if we end the war in a way that rewards Putin for his aggressive behavior, that we could get more aggression in the future. Originally, I was incredibly skeptical of the deal that was announced because it was basically negotiated solely between the U.S. and Russia. Ukraine didn't have any input. It's now gotten to a part where Ukraine is in the discussions, and it's been pulled back a little. And I think it would be a better deal because it would provide more security guarantees to Ukraine. I think for us to get to a solution, two things have to happen. First off, Ukraine is going to have to give up some land. Unfortunately, it's terrible, but Putin is not going to agree to something where he gets nothing. But second, for Ukraine's safety, there has got to be something in this deal, whether it's security guarantees with Europe and the U.S. or military equipment that scares Russians, that will prevent Putin from doing this again. And I think, both sides are going to have to give a little bit on each for us to get to a solution.
Katie, we obviously in the UK, we welcomed Ukrainian refugees, people gave their spare rooms. There's a sense now, though, 3.5 years later, of fatigue. I'm sorry to say it. and also the billions of taxpayers' money. I can't remember what the latest figure was, about 20 billion. I think we'd offered, we had pledged, let's say, to Ukraine. This idea that Ukraine is going to want to be part of NATO, that's a sticking point, though, for Putin. If they can't get rid of that, then there is no hope.
It's definitely a sticking point. There's a difference between saying you can be in NATO right now and saying we're not permanently closing the door to this somewhere in the future. And I think that's where you've got to work out where you land. On UK support, I think if you look at European countries, the UK support for Ukraine has actually been pretty robust. But as you say, particularly if there's a situation where America withdrew support and what that would mean in terms of what the UK and other countries have to do in funding, I think that could change things. I think that where we are now is, figures on all sides say what the US have done is they've managed to put a lot of energy back into the negotiations. There is now this sense of getting things done, even if the Thanksgiving deadline appears to now be less than firm.
Yeah.
It certainly has had a point where, you're once again at the point where there is energy in the sense that there is a deadline of some type, right? I think the big question is, it does feel as though Trump has spoken to through his team, has spoken to the Europeans and the Ukrainians, and it's got more than they want. What does Russia think about that? We now have a plan that's got from 28 points to about 19 points. You can expect Russia to have some opinions on that, and I think that is really where the rub is, because if the Kremlin turns around and say, actually, no, we prefer the original plan, I think this is where we start to get into the serious bit of negotiations.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was interesting about what Trump has said, which is he will not meet with either Putin or Zelensky. It's a balanced approach until he really feels this deal is basically there. And currently, the fact he's not meeting with them tells us it's not quite there.
Well, and I was going to say, jumping off what you're saying about it moving a bit more to favorable to Ukraine, there's already been reporting that Russians are saying this deal is now to Ukraine and to European for them to potentially agree to. I'm fairly hawkish when it comes to Russia, but there is one thing I do agree with on the Trump administration's approach, which is encouraging European countries to spend more on their defense, because I understand there's a lot of European countries, including the UK, who say, what Russia's done is terrible, we need to defend Ukraine. Great sentiment, but it always comes usually at the cost of the United States spending money and their military. The UK and Europe needs to have a better defense base to combat Russia and to combat threats. They can't always rely on the United States.
And one of the papers, which we will look at the headlines of in a bit, one of the front pages is talking about UK boots on the ground in Ukraine, peacekeeping boots apparently, but of course it isn't boots, there's people in those boots. If it was just boots, it might not be so bad. It's such an empty, dehumanising metaphor, isn't it, when they talk about boots on the ground. And I just think that is such a high-risk strategy for the UK, because it could kick off at any point. The peace for a while will be delicate, even if it is achieved, and having British soldiers on the ground is potentially a trigger for something much worse, Katie.
Yeah, and I remember speaking to figures in Westminster a few months ago about this, and they were saying, if it did get to a situation where it was UK boots on the ground, that is potentially a tipping point for UK support, or at least parts of it. And they said, you can already imagine the Reform Party, Nigel Farage's party, the attack ads, which we can't protect our borders, but we're going to send your children to police Ukraine's borders. I think that it's potentially really politically risky for the government if you get into that situation.
Well, what do the security guarantees look like? Because if we need some sort of ability for Ukraine to protect themselves, but politically it's not palatable for the UK or the US to have boots on the ground. And also, too, any sort of deal that involves US boots on the ground, Putin would flip out, because obviously with the animosity and tension between our countries historically, they would see that as a terrible threat.
I don't know whether we've got Paul Cox in London. We've got time to bring him in on this conversation. We might have run out of time now. We haven't been to Paul yet in the show, and it's 1:15. And I like Paul Cox, and I'd like to involve him in this conversation if we can. Hello, Paul. Sorry we haven't come to you until now. It's been a bit of a busy show with Seb Gorka, etc. How will the Brits feel about putting boots on the ground with men in them?
By the way, good evening, Bev. Good evening, Katie. Good evening, Melly. I think, on the whole, people will be very cautious. Cautious for a number of reasons. Nobody wants war. We have an economic situation which is terrible. We can't afford a war. We don't have a military that can support a war. On a personal level, I think we, much like Mally has said, I'm a bit of an outlier this subject for me, because I've always been quite supportive of Ukraine and making sure that we stop any more incursion into Europe, into Ukraine. I have people close to me that are from Lithuania, and I understand it from the perspective of the Balkan countries. And Russia is a real threat to certain parts of Europe. But I think from a UK perspective, I think this is not going to be met with a tremendous amount of love, Bev, I don't think.
No, that's right. And we know that President Trump really wants this off his desk. He talks every time he's on stage now. He did today at the White House about the fact that he's solved 8 wars. He has brought peace to 8 different regions: India, Pakistan, Middle East, Thailand, Cambodia. He's got a whole list of them. He would love to add this as a 9th conflict, which he has ended, wouldn't he, Paul? Like, it was very, very important to him on a personal level that he gets this job done. He said there's no firm deadline. That firm deadline was originally Thanksgiving. How long do you think he will put up with this before he really ramps up more pressure on Putin?
Well, first of all, I think it'd be great if he does achieve it. I think real peace and real success does look like not rewarding Russia. I hope he can do it. I think now he is this far in, irrespective of what milestones he set for himself, I think he's now in, and he will have to see it through to fruition. If that takes until the other side of Christmas, it takes until the other side of Christmas. But I think on his watch, he is going to be desperate to stop this war. And I think if anyone can, he can. But Mally was right. Not that Katie was wrong. Mally was totally right in the sense that Europe do have to stump up the cash to defend itself. We cannot continually rely on the US.
Bev, I love that Paul and I are agreeing so much. What a unique show. We just had to get Stephen out of the way, and Paul and I are right on the same track.
Just this once. Just this once, Melly.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and also we've got the budget tomorrow. Paul, let me ask you about that. It's going to be bleak, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, the front page of The Sun says taxes on work, pension, houses, taxis, milkshakes, hotel stays and having fun. That is literally a list of the things I do every week. I don't live in London. I work in London a lot. I stay in I use taxis. I stay in hotels. I work. I sometimes have a milkshake, Bev. This is going to impact me tremendously. I see no growth from this. I see no hope from this. And unfortunately, for some people, I see a stunting of their future. This Labour government has become somewhat of a social experiment, which is bound itself by ideology, because they came into power saying country before party. This is purely a party before country budget tomorrow. There's no other reason not to cut welfare and to hike taxes up. There's no other reason to stunt growth the way that Rachel Reeves is doing it. The only reason she's doing it is to appease her backbenchers and some sort of loose socialist ideology that Labour are trying to deliver.
But you know what? I try to feel some sort of positivity here, Paul. I try really hard to wake up in the morning and think there's a reason that Britain is going to rise from the ashes of despair that we're currently in. And then I saw that the minimum wage is going up from 18 to 20-year-olds from next April from £10 to £10.85. We've got daughters who will be 18 in the next couple of years. How pleased would they be to get an extra 85p an hour?
Well, I'm sure they would be pleased. We've spoken about this before. My daughter is doing her A-levels. She is struggling to find work. She wants to work. She wants to support herself. She wants the experience of work while she's doing her A-levels. And she's finding it difficult because employers are struggling to employ young people at that cost, because they have to pass that cost on, and people don't have the money in their bank accounts to spend on going out. So the places that they would get work cafe, bars, etc., are not employing people because they can't afford to, because people won't pay the prices because they can't afford to pay them. It's just this doom loop.
Mali, is there such a thing as a minimum wage here in America for youngsters?
Yes, so looking into this for this segment, I was surprised because in the U.S. we have a minimum wage, we have a national minimum wage, but states and cities can set their own minimum wage. So the national minimum wage hasn't been changed in the U.S. since like 2008. It's $7.25 an hour, but no one really gets, I mean, people do, but not many folks actually get it anymore because like California has a $15 minimum wage, and then I think like Los Angeles within California has higher than that. So I was very interested to see that you guys have a minimum wage that is different depending on how old you are.
Yeah, and of course you would get tips on top of that, right? So even though that sounds low, maybe in the hospitality industry, that would be significantly increased. Am I right?
Yes and no. So hospitality workers, this gets a little complicated, but in the U.S., they can actually be paid less than the $7.25 an hour. Don't get me exactly on the amount there. It can be like $2 or $3. And but the tips are supposed to get you to $7.25. But if there's a world where you were a server and for some reason you didn't have enough folks come through, the company is supposed to bump you up to $7.25, but I think there's complaints that sometimes that can fall through the cracks and you can have bad employers who won't do that.
Oh, okay, I see. So that, yeah, does that sound like a better system here, Katie, than we have in the UK? I don't know. I hate it when you get the bill and you've got to add on your gratuity. It confuses me.
Yeah, well, tipping here I think is tricky for Brits because we're just not used to it. But I think there is a risk when it comes to what the UK is looking at, which is it always sounds nice on paper to say you're going to raise the minimum wage, whether it's broader or for the youth. The question is, what is the knock-on effect? And I think there's a real risk, and we're already hearing warnings today, that the jobs market is looking pretty tough for graduates, teens, those leaving school. And do you create a system by which the employers are less likely to bring them in for, you know, I think that's one of the problems when you just constantly put it on the system that the wage goes higher.
Yeah.
It stifles business.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that a huge amount in the UK, aren't we? Thank you, guys. Paul, we will be back with you very shortly. But I want to tell you at home about an event that GB News is putting on this Christmas, and we want lots of you to be there too. On the Saturday, the 13th of December, you are invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply for tickets by scanning the QR code on the screen right now or go to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be recorded and broadcast on Christmas Eve. And sadly, I won't be there. I will be here in America, but that sounds amazing. I am so jealous. If you can, I really recommend you'll go. Lots of GB News family will be there. First, though, tonight, still to come on The Late Show Live.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, well, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people.
So that was Donald Trump at the White House today, making a few political jokes and poking fun at all sorts of people. We'll show you that in full. I'm also going to talk to a farmer in just a moment who is about to leave for Westminster to protest Rachel Reeves' budget. Don't go anywhere, no breaks. This is The Late Show Live. So we're just hours away now from Chancellor Rachel Reeves' much-feared autumn budget, and 800 to 1,200 farmers had planned to drive their tractors to Westminster in protest against the proposed inheritance tax reforms. We're looking at the pictures here from one of the previous protests, but a war of words has erupted because the Met Police announced vehicle restrictions and banned the tractors. The force has been accused of two-tier policing, and the protest has been reduced to a bit of pavement. So let's speak now to livestock farmer Douglas Turner, who's going to be protesting at Whitehall in Westminster. Douglas, great to talk to you again. Honestly, only farmers are awake at this time in the morning anyway, so I really appreciate it. Now, you've got your tractor behind you. Are you still going to drive down to Westminster in that, or have you made other plans now?
I couldn't possibly comment on that in case the wrong people are listening and they'll be tracking me as we go down there. Oops, I've just said it. We're not allowed to go and park in Whitehall, and that was the last time that we met, actually. I jumped out the tractor after driving for 2 hours to Whitehall. I was interviewed by your good self, which was very memorable.
I remember.
Yeah,
memorable for me too, Douglas, particularly because you have an excellent name in Mr. Turner. So how much warning did the farmers get from the Met Police? Because this is very unusual. A protest like this will have been through all of the conversation processes with the police. You'll have worked out where you can go at what times. For them to pull the rug at such late notice, that is very, very unusual.
We do feel it's a two-tier policing. The police have been got at, I'm sure, by someone from above or from sideways. We received notification about 3 p.m. today that the protest could still go ahead, but we cannot take in any tractors or agricultural vehicles whatsoever. Now, as you recall, as we just said, we met before. We had over 1,400 tractors in London. We didn't cause any inconvenience. And in fact, if you see the write-up that the Met gave us for our attendance there, we don't spray them in orange oil. We don't beat them up. We, in fact, fed them. We had a hog roast on one of the trailers, and we were giving them food as well, which they very much appreciated. So to call it at the last minute like this, there's something a little bit underhand, because of course we don't have sufficient time to lodge an appeal, because by the time we'd received it, analysed what we could do, everybody was shut. Excuse me, I'm a bit sore throat at the moment because I've had so many phone calls of other farmers saying what's happening, what we're going to do, what we're going to do. And we cannot have the tractors in Whitehall. That's what we've been told. So whatever happens, we are not going down into Whitehall with the tractors. We hoped still to have some of our farmers, which had left already, on tractors to come to our farm, which we have about 30 here at the moment. People are coming down on buses, coaches, driving, and we're going to go on foot. And they're going to be there. What we're going to have to do is something completely different to what we'd first organised to do, but we shall be doing something, because Labour have got to get out. They cannot pick on the farmer. The farmers are there. We produce food. We feed the nation. We can live without politicians, but we can't live without farmers.
And I'm a little frustrated by your campaign. I'm frustrated on your behalf because I think the farmers really grabbed the headlines when they changed the inheritance tax rules, and it was purely, it appeared to be designed to close down farms, to hand land over to who knows what, the big banks, the companies that want to put solar panels on your fields. The farmers were in the headlines every single day, and it feels like you're a very well-behaved bunch. What I'm saying is, Douglas, if it was me, I'd be spraying manure all over the front of 10 Downing Street. That's what I'm getting at. You've been patient, you've been law-abiding, you've been very tolerant when you've been pushed back. Is that part of the problem, that you've got to fight harder?
We can't really fight harder, Bev, because if we go out and we start spraying manure about everywhere, I'm sure that's what they want us to do, so they can close us down, and they will close down all demonstrations, rallies or protests, whatever you want to call them, because they say that we're the big bad guys, we've caused too many problems. We were there a year ago. We were there a couple of weeks ago, and on Monday, throughout the country, there were tractor rallies going on everywhere, very well received by the public. The public are behind us all the time. But as you just intimated then, before the last budget, in 10 Downing Street, Bill Gates was in there, Larry Fink from BlackRock was in there, and lo and behold, the budget comes out, and inheritance tax is going to have to be paid by farmers. Farmers may not be able to pay the inheritance tax for the simple reason is they have to sell off land. That was part of the deal, I think. They thought, OK, they get them to sell off the land, then the people like BlackRock will come along and buy the land. Once we've lost the land, we can't get it back again. We won't get the farms again. In fact, the other day, strangely enough, I was having a conversation with a load of equestrian, that's horsey people, and they said, oh, but you farmers, you can graze your sheep underneath the solar panels. I said, yeah, that's great. But where do we cut the hay to feed your horses? They go, oh, God, it's going to affect us as well, isn't it? I said, yeah, come on, guys, wake up.
Yeah, well, you are waking people up, Douglas, and I'm sure you'll continue to do so tomorrow. It would be terrible for Rachel Reeves if there were lots of Traxxas in London tomorrow. After all, it would be terrible front pages for her on the day of the budget. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. Douglas Turner there, who'll be protesting in London
it will not
tomorrow.
Happen. And if it does happen, it's going to be some chancellor's worst nightmare.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck with it, my friend. Go carefully, drive carefully. Douglas Turner, farmer there. Right, my panel are still here. Are you are, Katie, I was going to say, aware of the plight of the British farmers at the moment? It's really sad.
Yeah, I'm a granddaughter of farmers.
Are you?
So yeah, I think there's lots of concern when this was first announced for what it does to the family farm. You're already seeing, you know, lots of the family farms fold in recent years. The big companies move in, and I think therefore the sense that a sense of unfairness, I think, people who feel like, you know, on paper it might sound like it's a lot of money in terms of their estate, but you actually break down how a lot of these businesses operate, and they feel as though, you know, like lots of people in the country, you know, they're struggling to make ends meet. They don't feel that it necessarily fits the bracket that Labour would put them in. And I also think it's interesting because Labour in the last election actually won in quite a lot of rural places.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of Labour MPs representing rural constituencies, and recent polling suggests they have basically completely lost the rural vote. Now, I think there's a question as to whether they ever really stood for it. I think there was a point where people were just so fed up with the Tories, there was almost like, let's just try something else.
Yeah.
But certainly it feels as though this government has almost, in a way, if you look at their actions, is writing off this group. They're not really throwing much their way at all.
No, absolutely. And it is complicated, Mally, and I don't expect you to be an expert on the inheritance tax minutiae of farmers in the UK. But the notion is basically that the level at which inheritance tax kicks in now, it's about £1 million, isn't it, I think, of assets. But of course, you can have a combine harvester that's worth £800,000. So you very quickly are pulled into that tax bracket.
It can be a lot of money, but your margins aren't great.
And you probably don't have the cash.
Totally. And, you know, farming is an incredibly difficult job. In the U.S., I don't know if these statistics are the same in the UK, but in the U.S., farmers have really high rates of suicide because it's a tough job and you're always on the edge. And you see it both in the UK and the US. Farmers are really having a tough time. In the UK, it's the inheritance tax. In the US, it's Trump's trade war with China, and the resulting tariffs have caused a lot of problems. Soybeans. Farmer bankruptcies are up 55%, along with the fact that President Trump has prioritized Argentina, helping them sell soybeans to China. U.S. farmers are in a tough place. And, you know, they are a constituency that are usually very Republican and conservative, but we're seeing some of that break away because they're unhappy with Trump's trade policy.
Yeah, and I think didn't he recently do a deal with China though? Didn't Trump try to fix the soybean situation?
To try to get more soybean sales. Critics would say so far it's in name only. They've said they're going to buy a lot of soybeans, and those actual purchases haven't happened.
Okay. We're going to bring you some live pictures of American President Donald Trump arriving in Florida from Washington, D.C. ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Oh, he's gone on Air Force One. I thought he was going on his helicopter to Florida. Does he always go on Air Force One to Florida? How long is that journey?
You can't go on a helicopter to
Florida.
Florida.
No, you can't, can you?
It's hours. That'd be so dangerous.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. What an idiot. It's been a long day. Believe me, I'm a bit tired tonight.
It's like a 3-hour flight.
Okay, so it's 3 hours on. It goes on Air Force One. Imagine being able to go on a plane that big just for your long weekend away. It's quite a flex, isn't it, as the kids would say. Well, we're watching him arrive in Florida now. I don't know who he would have with him on a trip like this. I imagine it's not a plane full. Most people here in America are going to family and friends, of course, for the long Thanksgiving weekend. I said to you, Katie, I know you have to go in a bit, Katie, so don't let us hold you up. You've got deadlines to write to, I know. But where are you going to spend your Thanksgiving?
So I managed to get a couple of invites, which was encouraging after a few months here. But I'm going to a friend's, and there's 18 of us.
Americans, Brits, combination?
I think hosted by a Brit but filled with Americans, so a good mix.
And I think we need to have Thanksgiving in the UK, I've decided.
Yeah, well, once we learn how to do it properly through our experiences this week, maybe we can bring it over.
Yeah, because we don't have anything similar, because it is not religious. It is purely a celebration of the country. Just to explain the origins to us, Mally.
Yeah, so it's when the Pilgrims landed. They were greeted by Native Americans, and they had a nice, wonderful meal. The Native Americans helped us basically make a great meal, and we gave them smallpox. So it was a great trade-off.
That's not funny, but no, I get the joke. But the point being that didn't the Native American Indians fed the people that arrived. So
Yes.
this is why food is such a big part of this celebration. But why turkeys? Did Native American Indians deliver turkeys on that?
I have no idea
Me neither.
why turkeys, but I can tell you that Ben Franklin originally wanted our national bird.
Oh, sorry, I
not
thought I'd
to
just
be a
sneak
bald eagle,
myself
but
out.
wanted it to be a turkey.
I could hear them saying now is the time.
Well, that would look ridiculous, wouldn't it?
It would.
I mean,
I'm glad he lost out.
Well, I'm glad he lost out too with their stupid necks. I mean, I had to look at a couple of them in the Rose Garden today, and they are the ugliest birds imaginable. These
They
were
are.
enormous. So like 50 pounds, 40 pounds, these things today.
They're also aggressive and mean.
Do you know, actually, let's bring Paul Cox in as we look at these pictures. Paul's there in London. We've let Katie go and do her work for the Times newspaper. But Paul, we were just saying then at this turkey pardoning event that happened at the White House today. I promise you've never seen anything like it. It's the strangest event. We have got a little bit of footage which we're going to show you in a little while. But it's a sort of ceremonial pardoning of these turkeys and saying, you are not going to be killed, you can go free. It's very odd.
It's brilliantly bonkers, though, isn't it, Bev? Like you were saying earlier, your experience in the US, living there for the first time. And then, do you know what? I think I really like it. I like the fact that President Trump was funny. He did the whole Nancy Chuck
Pelosi joke, yeah.
Yeah, that was very funny. The turkeys have got funny names. Do you know, I've never seen a live turkey. You just said they're incredibly ugly. Is that true?
Oh, they're
grotesque. They have a weird neck.
They have a very weird neck. We will see them. They've got a head that looks a little like a scrotum.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't expecting that. But
it's perfectly accurate, though, isn't it?
You know, Bev, it would be interesting to see the reporting, though, because we know in Trump's America, you get pardons for two different reasons: either participating in a January 6th insurrection or giving money to World Liberty Financial, Trump's crypto venture. So I wonder if these turkeys helped pay off Trump or helped assault a police officer for him.
That's a little mischievous, Mally, when Stephen Kent isn't here to push back against you. So we're just watching these pictures now of President Trump arriving in Florida. He'll be ready for this long weekend. It's been a busy few months for him, solving wars all around the world. I think the thing I love about Thanksgiving, Mally, am I right in thinking that before you have your meal, that you all, oh, here we go, here they are. We're just watching First Lady Melania Trump here now coming down at the stairs, President Trump behind her. They will have gone from what has been a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., but a little chilly, to the beautiful 73, 74 degrees, I think it is, in Florida there. I'd never envy the way these women have to walk down these stairs in those very high, pointy stiletto heels. They're walking down hand in hand. It must be genuinely a well-earned break, I think, this for the president as you get to the end of 2025. Obviously, he was inaugurated in January the 21st, I think it was, earlier this year. And it's been a successful year, Mally. You've got to give him that.
Bev, don't get me started. Inflation's up, job growth is down, but, you know, I'll just leave it at that.
But inflation isn't up as much as it isn't up compared to when he arrived in the White House.
No, it's up. When he was inaugurated, it was 2.3%, and it is now 3%. That is up. Americans, there was a recent Fox News poll that said 76% of Americans were unhappy with the economy. This is really going to hurt Trump if he hears this. When the last poll they did for Biden before he left, 70% of Americans were unhappy with the economy. So Americans are more unhappy with the U.S. economy under Trump than they were under Biden?
Well, I think everybody's unhappy with the economy, aren't they? I mean, we're the same in the UK. It's the same all around the world, though, isn't it? It's been a very strange period of time, Paul Cox, because it's like every country post the pandemic is in lockstep with the same issues. Pretty much every single country is suffering with the same problems, isn't it?
Yeah, but one thing politicians do have control of is the rhetoric, i.e. the things they say about themselves and about the country which they're leading. We hear nothing but doom and gloom in this country, and we champion all the wrong people, it feels to me. Donald Trump, I understand what Malley's saying. If I was on the opposite side of the political argument, i.e. on Malley's side, I might point at things like inflation being up 0.7%, which isn't a tremendous amount, but it is up under Trump. However, Trump talks the US up. His whole slogan was "Make America Great Again." We don't have anything like that in Europe, and specifically in the UK. We'd love somebody to come in and talk up our country in a patriotic way, in a national way, that allows us to at least feel good about ourselves, irrespective of what's going on. Because not only have we got a bad economy in the UK, we feel terrible about ourselves. We've been told our history's bad. We've told we have to pay for our history for the rest of our lives, and nobody in power talks about the UK as if it's a good place to be or a good place to have ever been.
Yeah. OK, so we have just waved off President Trump there in Florida, heading off to Mar-a-Lago for the long Thanksgiving weekend. But still to come here on The Late Show Live, we're going to show you the footage from the annual turkey pardon ceremony, the behind the scenes of that. Just a quick look now at your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Cold and frosty for many of us out there this morning, but in the west things are turning milder, but also quite a bit wetter already. We've got rain edging into Northern Ireland, a soggy morning here, that rain spreading into western Scotland, trickling into western parts of England and Wales, clouding over elsewhere, some sparkling frosty sunshine across eastern England, slowly clouding over through the day, but generally a fine day for East Anglia and the south east. Still pretty cold here, temperatures 7-8 at best. That'll be quite late in the day. Further west it is turning milder, but obviously won't feel all that pleasant with the rain. The rain should be easing from Northern Ireland though as we head into the afternoon and through the evening rush hour. Elsewhere, though, not especially heavy, but damp and drizzly for many over the Midlands and southwest England to end the day. But we also do end the day quite a bit warmer. Eventually, some of that rain through this evening will trickle towards East Anglia and the southeast. As I said, easing off, at least for a time, across Northern Ireland. Same goes for Scotland as well, the main area of rain heading away, so eastern parts of Scotland may well be drier for this evening rush hour. Just a few showers further west. We'll see more of those coming in during this evening. Some heavy ones are possible across the Highlands and the Western Isles during the night, and then another pulse of heavy showery rain could get into Northern Ireland through the night too. There's that rain moving into East Anglia and the southeast for a time, but again tending to get out of the way by dawn. And look at the numbers compared to this morning. Many of us 8, 9, even 10 degrees higher to start Thursday compared to how we're starting this morning. So it's going to be milder tomorrow, but it's not going to be sunny, far from it. A lot of cloud, generally dry over eastern England, but showery rain in the west. Some of it could be heavy at times, particularly for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Northern Ireland may brighten up a touch later on tomorrow, but generally a lot of cloud. Quite brisk winds as well, getting very windy in the northwest later tomorrow, but it will also be much milder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Still to come, we're going to discuss David Lammy's plan to get rid of jury trials. Honestly, you just couldn't write it, could you? It's just the end of democracy. It's horrendous. But first of all, earlier today, I attended the White House turkey pardon, one of Washington's more quirky Thanksgiving traditions. The custom is traced back to 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln is said to have spared a turkey after his son grew attached to the animal. Well, this year, President Trump pardoned 2 turkeys named Gobble and Waddle, and it was full of laughs. Have a look for yourself.
There's the very serious business of securing peace in Ukraine at the moment, very much front and centre of Donald Trump's desk. But the president has made time for the ceremonial 78th annual Thanksgiving turkey presentation. Now, this is rather lost on us Brits, let's be honest, but Thanksgiving is huge here. It's on Thursday, of course, and this town will pretty much grind to a halt. In fact, the president gets on his helicopter this afternoon to head to Mar-a-Lago for a long weekend. And the turkey pardon is a huge part of this tradition. 2 turkeys are here. One is the main event and one apparently is the understudy in case one of them isn't available at the moment, and they're both called Waddle and Gobble, and they have been raised in Wayne County, North Carolina. It's a real honour for the farmers to have their turkeys donated for today, and then they will get pardoned. In other words, they get to live. People here have been talking about how huge they are, how delicious they look, but that's irrelevant because they are going to be pardoned and they will go and live their days at the university. So let's watch the ceremony.
In a few moments, I will grant a full, absolute, and unconditional presidential pardon to 2 handsome Thanksgiving turkeys, and this is their lucky day. This is a lucky day for them. Sleepy Joe Biden, he used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid. Are you ready? Gobble. I just want to tell you this, very important. You are hereby unconditionally pardoned.
The celebrities, the politicians, the cabinet members who are here today are still mingling in the background as the rain just starts to come down here at the White House. We've got the Oval Office behind us. Seb Gorka just walking past.
Oh, did you enjoy that?
It was wonderful.
Official pardon.
Wasn't it wonderful?
Now,
yeah.
Pardons.
I know. Amazing.
I know.
Americans are weird, aren't they? What is this thing called a turkey pardon?
What are Brits then?
Sensible.
Really?
We
Mushy peas? Really? Come on. You want to go there?
So, of course, it's a little strange to British eyes. We don't even celebrate Thanksgiving, never mind giving an official pardon to the turkeys. But it was a lovely event here at the White House today. President Trump couldn't help giving a mention to his new patio, formerly the Rose Garden here. And he said if it was raining today, all these seats would be sinking into the grass. He's very proud of his interior design changes here at the White House. And of course, it was quite short by President Trump's standards as a speech. He took the opportunity to talk about the fact that he's making America great again. He talked about the economy. He talked about the fact that turkeys are 33% cheaper on the table today than they were under Joe Biden. He couldn't help but take a swipe at J.D. Pritzker. He's the governor of Chicago because he won't let the National Guard in there to clamp down on crime.
The mayor is incompetent and the governor is a big fat slob. Say, please make Chicago safe. We're going to lose a great city if we don't do it quickly. Make Chicago. We'll do the same thing as we did in D.C.
And then he did say, the president, I'd quite like to lose a few pounds myself. It's not going to happen during Thanksgiving, though. He said, I'm going to eat a lot of turkey. Not that one, of course. That turkey gets to go and live out its days now at a university and be very well cared for. It had its big moment in the spotlight here at the White House. So to all of our American viewers from GB News, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. We do wish you a very happy Thanksgiving to all our American viewers and listeners, and we really wish that honestly, I wish we had something similar. Am I right in saying that when it's Thanksgiving, Mally, you all sit around at the start of the meal and say something that you're grateful for?
Yeah, my family does that.
Do you?
Yeah, we say something we're thankful for.
Oh, it's so lovely.
My sister created a thankfulness box that we would write it down and you could see it through the years, which was cute.
Oh, that's nice. So then you can look back and work out what you were grateful for.
Yes, but I don't know where the tradition stopped. The box hasn't made it the last few years, but when we did it, it was fun.
Paul, are you still with us there in London? Don't you love the idea of that? Like sitting around, it's not religious, so anybody can celebrate it, and just being grateful and just saying, I'm thankful for what? My family, my food, my GB News. I'm grateful for my government.
I'm grateful for this show, Bev. It helps me pay my mortgage. I have a lot of fun, and I'm very grateful. Look, I've always been very much aware of Thanksgiving. Today, 26th of November, is my birthday. So
you beat me to it. I was just about to say happy birthday.
Oh,
if I was there, I'd have brought you a bottle of champagne, my friend. But no, well, happy birthday.
Thank you, Bev. So it's always fallen around my birthday. I've always been aware of it. And you're absolutely right. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we gave thanks in this country? It would just be, genuinely, we should start a campaign.
I think so too. Although, yeah, no, I don't think that would go down very well. We're always, we're being accused of being too pro-America. No. I don't think we can quite do that. We might get in trouble for that. Should we have a look at some live pictures of lava flowing from a volcano?
Why not?
In Hawaii? It's Kilauea, I presume it's pronounced. Oh, that is a big spout.
Crikey.
I wasn't expecting that. So this is it's in a national park on Hawaii's biggest island. Is it called Hawaii's Big Island? That can't be the name of it. It's a capital B. It's the biggest island. Presumably that's Oahu. Isn't that the largest island in Hawaii?
Bev, I have no idea.
You don't know? Okay. Well, it's one of the world's most active volcanoes. According to the United States Geological Survey, this is the 37th eruption since December 2024. We did see some pictures of this a couple of days ago, but that was just sort of dribbling out in a really unimpressive way. But that's, Paul Cox, that's what a volcano should look like.
Yes, I wondered how you were going to describe that, Bev. I thought you were quite reserved. But yeah, that's incredible. We don't have anything like that in this country, thank goodness. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, as it did the other night when it first erupted, is there any risk to life? It doesn't look like it from that photo, but that's quite a feat of nature, isn't it? And it just doesn't it just go to show, just goes to show Hawaii is this beautiful holiday island to most of us. I've never been, unfortunately, but it's incredibly dangerous in many ways, because Hawaii itself is just one giant, great live volcano waiting to erupt. I'm kind of glad I'm not there.
Well, Paul, you don't go near that part. You don't build the resort by the volcano and you're good to go.
Look, Mally, the hotel I can afford is under it. That's the problem.
Well, there's something going on at them. We will be after Rachel Reeves' tax. There's something going on at the moment because there's been a volcano that's awakened in Ethiopia as well, hasn't it, in the last couple of days, after 12,000 years. The universe is shifting, Mally. Can you feel it? Can you feel the tectonic plates?
That sounds like the start of a horror movie.
So, yeah, do you know what? To be honest, filling time talking about volcanoes feels a bit like the horror movie to me. So should we move on? I've got nothing else to say on volcanoes. I can't even tell you exactly where it is. Let's go to the front page of the Daily Telegraph, which is this hideous story talking about horror films. This is David Lammy, ready. No, it isn't actually. Oh, jury trials, scraps for most crimes. Apologies, that's front page of the Daily Telegraph. This is the idea of David Lammy. This makes me terrified because you have a problem here in this country, Mally, with judges who are politically orientated to... I'm sorry, but to be pro-Democrat, to be left-leaning judges and DOJs, and it is just hideous what's happened in this country. So few people are being convicted of crimes. Oh, apparently President Trump is speaking. Not about this, but let's have a quick look. Here we go.
Well, we're having Zelensky to come visit you. We're having good. I don't know. He would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first. We're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having some talks with Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end. And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
What are the big sticking?
We settled 8 wars, and I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones. There's a lot of hatred.
You said there were a few points of disagreement that were still left to be...
Yeah, a few.
Can you tell us what those are?
Well, it's just standard things, but people are starting to realize it's a good deal for both parties and they got to stop the war. They're losing a lot of people, a lot of soldiers, mostly soldiers.
In that 28-point plan that was originally leaked, there were some portions of that said that Ukraine...
Well, that was an original proposal, and then from there we went back and forth.
So when it comes to ceding land to Russia, is that still on the table or has that changed?
Well, they're talking about going land both ways and trying to clean up a border. You know, you can't go through the middle of a house, you can't go through the middle of a highway. So they're trying to work it out. It's a complicated process. Doesn't go that quickly.
What about security guarantees and Ukraine?
Well, we're working that out with Europe. Europe will be largely involved in that. We're working that out with Europe. Europe really wants to see it end if possible.
There were a lot of Republicans who felt that the first plan, the first 28-point plan, was too favorable to Russia. Have you changed?
Well, that was just a map. All that was is a map. That was not a plan. It was a concept. And from there, they've taken each one of the 28 points, and then you get down to 22 points. A lot of them were solved, and actually very favorably solved. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think that Ukraine was being asked to give too much land back to Russia? I know at one point you said they shouldn't have to give any back.
It's really up. Look, the way it's going, if you look, it's just moving in one direction. So eventually, that's land that over the next couple of months might be gotten by Russia anyway. So do you want to fight and lose another 50, 60,000 people? Or do you want to do something now? In some cases, the land is going in the other direction. So they're negotiating. They're trying to get it done. You want to have a border. You can't have a border that goes through a highway or a border that goes through the middle of a town. So it doesn't work. So it's a long, complicated process.
So that was President Trump talking on Air Force One as he made his way from Washington to Mar-a-Lago earlier, saying the kind of things we've heard him say before on the wars and the fact that he's so pleased that he's managed to bring peace to 8 particular regions. Paul Cox, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paul. Happy birthday to you.
Turning 26.
Thank you, Bev.
Bye to you too, and bye to you all at home. I'll see you tomorrow night, midnight in the UK. See you then.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News. Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is